I'm Georgia and this is The Sound of Georgia. Today, let's talk about the time Julie Andrews did The King and I. Kind of. I'm sorry it's been so long since I posted, but life is hard. Anyway, I'm back. Let's go. So in my last video, I talked about how Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella was not the first time Julie Andrews played Cinderella. And so, of course, when Sound of Music came along 8 years later, Cinderella was suddenly not the only Rodgers and Hammerstein leading lady Julie had done. But neither was Maria, because in 1992, Philips Records released a studio cast recording of The King and I, with Julie singing as the main role of Emily Owens. Also a Rodgers and Hammerstein leading lady, also a real person who really existed, also a governess. Now, she wasn't playing the role in the strictest sense of the word, she was just singing it, because this was only an album. There were a whole lot of promo pics, and they did film a couple of the recording sessions. And the next year, in 1993, they released a documentary called The King and I, Recording a Hollywood Dream. But there was no actual production or performances of any kind. Alongside Julie, Ben Kingsley was starring as the King, and the cast also included Lisa Longer, Peabo Bryceman, Martin Sheen, Marilyn Horne, and Roger Moore. I'm not exactly sure who was playing who. Lisa Longer would have been Top Tim, and Marilyn Horne was Lady Piang, and Peabo Bryceman was probably Lin Tang. And I also don't know whether I pronounced any of those names right. And to do it, they partnered with the Hollywood Bowl Orchestra. So Julie was back as Rodgers and Hammerstein leading lady, who also happened to be a governess. Actually, in the early stages of making Sound of Music, Hammerstein was sent a letter that was X number of reasons not to make the Sound of Music, and one of the reasons the sender had given was, you want to write a musical where the leading man falls in love with the governess. You've already written that. It's called The King and I. That was not a perfect quote of what was sent in the letter, but that was basically the gist of it. And I cannot remember for the life of me who actually sent it to Hammerstein, because I didn't read about this. Several years back when my local orchestra was doing a Rodgers and Hammerstein concert, which was also hosted by Nicholas Hammond himself, and when we got to the Sound of Music portion of the concert, Nicholas just pulled out this letter and started reading it as though it wasn't a letter written to Oscar freaking Hammerstein, basically saying, I don't know who wrote the letter, and I wouldn't even know where to start looking for the information about who wrote that letter. Tangent over, we're supposed to be talking about The King and I. But beyond being another Rodgers and Hammerstein musical, Julie did have some other connections to this particular role. Gertrude Lawrence was the original actress for Emily Owens when the show opened on Broadway in 1951, and of course Julie did star in 1968, which was about Gertrude Lawrence's life. And a complete flop, but honestly one of her best in my opinion. And the other connection was Money Nixon. Money Nixon had dubbed Deborah Kerr and did the singing voice in the film version of The King and I, and you know, she was in Sound of Music. So not only was Julie going up against hugely successful and iconic performances, but she was also going up against performances that she kind of had a connection to. The album was released on the 6th of October 1992, and it did very, very well. In the biography he did about Julie, Richard Sterling says, quote, in contrast with Julie's last few projects, everything worked. With John Mauceri conducting the Hollywood Bowl Orchestra, it was the finest album Julie had made since the days of her own Broadway and Hollywood triumphs. And Julie herself said, it was one of the best creative experiences I've ever had. There was a kind of aura, a kind of karma about the whole enterprise. But not only that, she said that in the past she, quote, used to assume that the audience judged me the way I judged myself. And I wasn't fond of myself in those days. I'm able to give so much more now. And in addition to all of that, past connections, more Rodgers and Hammerstein, yada yada, this was also a bit of a prelude slash foreshadowing, I guess, for her return to the theatre. Julie didn't go back to Broadway until 1995 with Victor Victoria, but the next year, in 1993, she did Putting It Together, which was the Stephen Sondheim jukebox musical, and you can actually watch what I assume is the entirety of that online. I say assume because I haven't actually done that. But I've watched a few clips here and there, and man, does she kill Getting Married Today. I'll probably talk about Putting It Together one day. Let me know if you'd like that. And that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. I just think this was such an interesting thing that she did. Let me know in the comments what's your favourite song from The King and I. Stay safe guys, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my video next time. So long for